Guys, right as I go to record this video, I get a reply from Charlie Kirk saying great analysis on my most recent video that I uploaded to X and YouTube, describing how the left destroys people, ravages their psyches in my generation. And so I want to say, go check out that video because it really is a good video. And I hope it gets some traction. Right now on X, it's at thousands of views because they don't censor. On YouTube, it's only at like 50 or something. But shout out to all of you for watching and subscribing, and shout out to Charlie Kirk. This video of Patrick Bet-David interviewing Donald Trump is probably my favorite interview of Trump that I've seen. And that's saying something because there have been some incredibly good interviews conducted by Nelp, the Full Send guys. But this is very interesting because Trump, without realizing he's doing it, describes perfectly accurately the condition of the mind virus and how it, for lack of a, well, not for lack of a better term, but actually because it is the most accurate term you could probably find to describe the situation, possesses people. The resentment of Marxism possesses people to do warfare with reality, to despise all objective notions of coherence and parameters and category. And this is what he describes in a way that no one else besides him could. Check this out.
The question I'm asking is, you're in a new space. Who were really the powerful people?
The most powerful person by far, the president. Power over everybody. Power. The power is enormous.
Most people don't believe that.
It
Listening
is.
to this, you can see why a system based on resentment and claiming that there's only such thing as power disparities between people would be thoroughly enraged with 4 years of a Trump presidency because they can't debate ideas. They don't believe in meritocracy at all. So they can't accept that he got into this position as a result of being competent. And even the thought of that happening is too enraging for them to process, which is the reason why you see broken, unemployed leftists standing outside golden skyscrapers with signs saying the man who owns this skyscraper is a loser while they're standing outside unemployed, right? But the fact that the presidency has power over everybody, including the deep state, if you were to put them up head to head, it's like a heavyweight fighter going up against a lightweight. They can't actually affect change because they've disbanded with their ability to make sense using logic, reason, rationality. So they can't convince their opposition to do things that make sense or are good because they don't believe in the notion of good. They don't want good for the country. They don't believe in the process of meritocratically making sense because they only believe in power disparities. And they don't believe in dialogue or discourse, which is the mechanism that allows for any of those processes to take place. So you see instantly there about 15 different reasons why the left would be enraged with the Trump presidency. They couldn't contend with it on any level of the psychological landscape.
But there is a sort of a deep state. And a lot of that's people that have been there. And then there's some bad guys, there's some bad people. Then there's a radical.
This is something that I hear Trump saying more and more often, which is that it's not just incompetence. There are actually malevolent forces in Washington that are trying to do damage to America. This has been abundantly clear to me since probably 2018, 2017, when I recognized that some people are purely driven by the resentment for objective category and reality itself. But it's a very deep burden to realize when you recognize that some people are walking around wishing for the death of civilization. This is the reason why you see leftists marching on days like October 8th in Manhattan with signs essentially declaring, advocating for the collapse of America. The left makes enemies of morality and reality everywhere.
Then there's some bad guys, there's some bad people. Then there's a radical left, which I think are more dangerous in many ways than the other countries. I really do. You know, guys like Shifty Adam Schiff and other people. They're bad people. They're sort of.
And the thing is the left will twist that and say he's saying that my opposition is more dangerous than North Korea. But what he's actually saying is that the death cult, which declares warfare on objective parameters, morality, logic, reason, rationality, objective truth, is far more dangerous, is much more of an existential threat than some other human in another country. Because what the domestic enemies are doing is declaring warfare on truth, so that you can't tell the difference between up and down, so that you can't tell the difference between right and wrong. This is the reason why atheism also goes hand in hand with total mental despair and believing in a bunch of things that are objectively false. This is the reason why you see people like Neil deGrasse Tyson saying things like there's infinite genders when he used to be the figurehead of objective truth in science. I went to one of his lectures when I was 15 because back then he actually was the guy of objective truth. Now, the radical left destroys people's relationships with reality.
Sick people, not stupid people either, by the way. Smart people.
Sure.
But they're vicious, but they're very bad for our country.
Is Adam Schiff powerful?
Can you imagine? Well, he made
Right,
up.
so Patrick Bet-David is asking, why does it matter that, that congressman is evil, essentially? And the answer is because that which possesses him and makes him evil is a widespread virus possessing many people, which create an amorphous enemy. This is what Trump calls a swamp, and he's been calling it the swamp for a while, but he doesn't know that it's postmodern neomarxism. Or maybe he does now because people around him have told him. But that's what it is, postmodern neomarxism, the resentment for category, the resentment for reality, and all objective notions of truth.
Up the Russia hoax.
No,
He and Hillary.
what I'm saying is, who is their boss? Who calls them and say, you better or else?
I think it's an amorphous group. It's a group. It's not one person.
Correct.
It's an amorphous group of lunatics.
And really what it is, this is abstract, but guys, this is abstract, but this is true. There doesn't need to be somebody on the phone, and this is a mark of tyranny. There doesn't need to be somebody on the phone calling up and say, you better say this or else, when you're living in a true tyranny, because the rule of the tyranny is you must lie all the time in order to uphold the tyranny, because tyranny goes against nature. It violates coherence and objectivity itself. And so the reason these people make no sense and deliberately say the opposite of the truth at every single opportunity isn't because they have somebody calling them up and saying, hey, today you can't make any sense. Today you have to humiliate yourself in the eyes of people that are making sense of the world using reason. Instead, what they have is, you must adhere to the cult, which grants you counterfeit virtue, or will call you a bad person. And we've already stripped you of your ability to engage with the real world, because we've said any ability to engage with objective reality is untenable masculine oppression, it's patriarchal, it's take your pick of other derogatory term to describe corruption and predatory instincts. So the pact of the left is clear. Deviate from us and we'll call you a bad person, and you have no defense against us because you've already sacrificed your individual identities, psychologically speaking, on our altar of group identity. And so when you have this rule set, when you control people this way, you don't have to call them up to force them to lie. They lie automatically because they're like rats in a cage fiending for their next hit of whatever the stimulant may be. In this case, counterfeit virtue, and status based on victimhood identity class warfare. So this is very sophisticated. And when I heard Trump say this, I knew that he has his finger on the pulse.
And when they come together, they're pretty bad. But let me just say this: the president has the absolute. If the president now, Biden doesn't know he's alive, so I don't think I really believe they used him as
he's a comedian,
as a vessel, like a vessel in the night.
Trump is very smart and very funny,
and I really believe that. She's a little bit more dangerous because she's
a vessel in the night. What does that even mean, dude?
A vessel, like a vessel in the night, and I really believe that. She's a little bit more dangerous because she's basically a Marxist, like her father. Her father's a Marxist. You know what I don't understand?
Resentment for reality is at the forefront. They admit it. They actually wear that as a badge of counterfeit virtue, saying, look, I do warfare with reality. I believe in ideology that resulted in communism, which, of course, we know caused the greatest amount of despair out of any doctrine ever conceived of by the human mind.
Why has the father not been interviewed? I mean, nobody talks about that. If that were a Republican situation, the father would be all...
Right, well, as I said at the beginning of this video, they don't believe in dialogue, discourse, logic, reason, meritocracy, and so there's no reason to interview him because in their mind he doesn't have any power, and they don't believe in merit or the validity of ideas, so they would have no way of even vetting what he has to say.
Other place, where's the...
This is the reason why she's so out of water when she goes on Fox News and gets completely destroyed, and then the left is like, oh my gosh, we have to invert truth, saying she did well, when every single clip is basically her just nosediving.
I haven't seen one article where they're looking for the father. So the father is a Marxist professor of economics, which is an interesting thing. Marxists and economics don't go together. Right?
You know what's the one thing? Everybody says, what's your favorite 4 years of Trump? My favorite moment of you being a president is this moment here.
The reason why this is enraging to them is because, and they haven't done this since, after this interview, they were very careful not to put themselves candidly on camera. And when I say they, I'm talking about the radical left-wing degenerates who think that they're better than you as a result of being a part of their identitarian cult. The reason why this is untenable to them is because they're put on the stage of, you have to make sense, when again, they don't believe in making sense. Because making sense is giving into a masculine patriarchal system, which is oppressive, etc., yada, yada.
Said it. I'll take it. Okay, good. You know what I'll say? Yes.
Because what you're seeing here is realness versus fakeness.
If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military...
And look, it's a masculine leader standing up to a corrupt, sniveling, weak, scheming narcissist.
Anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And I am proud, and I'll tell you what, I am proud to shut down the government.
Look how uncomfortable this guy is. He's a congressman. I don't know his name because he's irrelevant. But look how uncomfortable he is, and look how comfortable Trump is.
For border security, Chuck, because the people of this country don't want criminals and and people that have lots of problems and drugs pouring into our country. So I will take the mantle.
You can
I
pass
will
that,
be
bro.
the one.
You know what did this to
And
me?
by the way, how right was I? And now, I had the strongest border we ever had, and I used soldiers from Mexico and every other thing. You got to for nothing, zero cost.
Right, Mexico provided the soldiers. This is what Trump says when he says they paid for it, because in terms of a dollar value, that was worth millions and millions of dollars. All the soldiers that Mexico had stand guard on the border.
I had the strongest border, but look at that guy. Look,
It's hilarious how just one side of the party openly just doesn't want borders and has created such a horrific situation to the point where it's just clearly evident that they hate America. It's just clearly evident that they despise America.
they're all threats to our nation. He and his group, after I was gone, opened up the
Right,
border,
correct.
and our country has been poisoned, okay?
Correct.
Poisoned. We have killers, we have murderers, we have the...
He's talking about the open border, but he's also talking about here, this is the reason why it's so clearly light versus dark in this election. Because we have some people that are driven by purely the resentment of Marxism, purely by the resentment which animates them against America, against coherence, against masculinity, against reality, against truth. And then we have people that are trying to save America, embodying all of those attributes. This is the reason why it's never been clearer who the good guys are and never been more confusing if you can't tell the difference between up and down. Because you have people saying the opposite things of each other. You literally have people on X right now saying that Kamala's debate or interview on Fox News was flawless, when every single sentence she said was a cringe fest. And it was a disgrace for her. But the fact that you have people saying it was flawless means that you have people that are willing to say the opposite of the truth for a cult. It self-evidently was bad. And if you are saying it's flawless, then that's saying there's no exceptions. That's saying it was perfect. It was 100 out of 100, right? And if you can find one moment that didn't go well for her, you would invalidate that statement. And you can find 15 of those moments, probably more than 15. So you see that they invert truth. They're called to.
Drug lords, we have everything. We have terrorists at numbers. Do you know in 2019, a report was done that not one terrorist was allowed in?
You like good charts. I think you're going to love this chart. So this is the chart. I don't know if you've seen this or not. So this is the terrorist attacks, deaths, and injuries based on different presidents being there. If you go to
there it is.
2008 to 2016, that's the Barack Obama era. Look what he did. He produced more terrorist attacks during his era. 16, you get elected. Look what happens.
Yep.
Disappearing.
Masculine, strong leadership, right. But they don't even believe in the notion of charts because charts represent objective reality. And again, I'm being completely serious when I say this. Objective reality to these people is oppressive and therefore untenable.
I had nothing. I had none.
I understand. So, but the reason why I show this clip is if you're...
I like these charts, I must have.
Yeah.
I like my chart the best. You know, my
Yeah, that's the chart.
I have a chart that I like better than any chart I've ever seen, better than any person
I'm
I've
glad
ever
you
seen.
were looking at the chart. I think a lot of people are happy you were looking at the chart.
No, I love these charts that you have.
But something happened last week. Barack Obama, he's at this event, he's speaking.
Right.
And he's given this message about your economy, how great the economy was. And then at the end of it, he says, you know, you didn't build that economy. I built this. I kind of want to get your reaction on this talk that he's given. Rob, if you can put that up.
And the reason some people think,
Man, Obama does not look well here.
I don't know, I remember that economy when he first came in being pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good because it was my economy.
No one says that. Nobody says that. They say the economy was good after he created a good economy, after he worked for a long time. Yeah, so this is very... What you're seeing here is resentment. Again, it's the resentment of the left. They can't accept that other people have achieved good outcomes because that references meritocracy and invalidates the identitarian culture, which says if you're not a part of our group, you can't do or say anything that's right. This is the reason why they can never admit that any person they disagree with is virtuous in any way. That's how you know that it's a cult. And you also know that it is a cult of personality, which is what, again, they invert truth and accuse us of having with Trump when we back him because he's impressive, meritorious, and does damage to the forces of darkness. But their cult of personality is far more perverse and sinister because it is a cult of personality centered around the spirit of Cain, the originating locus of resentment. And they prove they're intellectually dishonest when they say that someone they disagree with has no redeeming qualities. And they prove that they're intellectually unserious and corrupt when they can't give him credit for something that is something that he did that is overwhelmingly good to the point where it's indisputable.
We had 75 straight months of...
I've never seen Obama look this way. He's ridden with resentment. This is how the left, breaks people. And shout out to my previous video, which Charlie Kirk commented under, where I break down exactly how the left destroys human psyches.
job growth that I handed over to him. It wasn't something he did. I spent 8 years.
It's like a sore loser walking off the court, right? I mean, this guy should be content because he had two tries at making the country good. He failed, and then Trump had to come in and fix it.
Just cleaning up the mess that the Republicans had left me the last time. So just in case...
It's so dishonest, and it's very interesting for me to realize watching this that the men who believe this are all beta males and freaks.
Everybody has a hazy memory. He didn't do nothing.
Like the people, like if you were to believe this, I would assume that your weak personality, you've never gone to the gym, but really you're easy to control because you don't believe in logic, reason, dialogue, etc. And then of course you see that the left is against free speech and actually campaigns on it,
except those big tax cuts.
So how do you feel about this when you see him saying this last week?
I think he's angry. He pretends not to be, but I think he's an angry guy. He's a nasty guy.
I bet Obama has been replaying that moment with Trump where he had to give over the White House and walk down the steps, because at that point you can no longer pretend as though there is no merit to the system. Obama failed, Trump succeeded.
He's got a little bit of an edge, and he's angry about a lot of things. You look at what happened with Biden, and you look at what he did with Biden. He really hurt Biden because I'm not sure he wouldn't have imploded anyway. We had the debate, and he was down quite
This is interesting.
bit, and they walked out, and they just took it away from him. I mean, if you think about it, they stole the election from a sitting president. That's, I always say coup, but the word coup...
Right, the left only believes in power disparities. They don't believe in, again, morality. So them doing that has no moral penalty as far as they're concerned, because they're not beholden to any higher standard in their mind. Of course, in reality, they are, which is the reason why they're so physically destroyed. Again, shout out the video I just recorded.
I don't think it's accurate enough. They just walked in and took it away from him. That is a legendary thing. He didn't want to give up. He's angry now. They're all angry, the Democrats, if you think. She's angry. They're both angry. But...
Right, and again, you see them inverting truth because they're what? Oh, the movement of joy, when they're the most resentful, when they're the most deformed, when they're the most angry and clearly ridden with, mind-bending resentment.
No, I watched that last week, and I think he spoke down to black men. I thought it was terrible the way he spoke to them.
Yeah, it's true.
Do you think it's effective? You think he still carries the same stick as he did? Maybe.
Oh, no, not at all. Obama used to be a great orator, but what you're seeing there is it's cringe, it's pathetic, and those, despite the fact that I don't like Obama, those used to not be words I would use to describe him, would be cringe and pathetic. He had poise, whether you agree with what he said or not, of course. But that video you just saw, there was no poise. That was cringe. That was debased.
8 years ago or 12 years ago?
No, I don't
Typically, you want to age with grace and class, right? But not when you're on the left.
think it is. No, I don't think he does. I think people have gotten smart. And
it's interesting, too, to see how many bitter old people there are that are on the left that just watch CNN nonstop, because normally the stereotype is, oh, the old person's watching Fox News because as you get older, you're more conservative. But there are a tremendous number, millions and millions of people, I know some of them, that just watch CNN as they get older, become more and more bitter because in their old age, instead of doing things, instead of raising young kids, instead of embodying truth and morality gloriously, helping the next generation, etc., they'd rather just be resentful. I've seen it.
no, I don't believe he does at all. I hadn't seen him. He's changed a lot. Visually, he's changed. I like to say visually as opposed to from the look standpoint, because, of course, looks don't matter anymore in politics, You say, looks don't matter. It doesn't make any difference, because we want to be politically correct, but they do matter. But he's changed. His look has changed actually quite a bit. I haven't seen him in a long time.
It's similar to the statement he made back in 2012 when he told business owners, you didn't build that. Remember when he said that? I don't know if you remember that whole comment. I think this is the speech, Rob, if you want to play this.
Yeah, ultimately resentful, inverting reality.
If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Oh, man. Yeah, so ultimately resentful for reality. It's disgusting.
So this becomes a pattern of...
resenting reality. That is the Marxist agenda right there. It's anti-humanity.
Communism.
You see a pattern of communism there?
No, I mean, that's basically the view. We didn't do anything.
Right.
Government did it. Somebody did it, but anybody but us.
Do you think this works with the undecided voter? Do you think the undecided voter that's sitting... Our audience, they're entrepreneurs, they're small business owners, they're family, they have kids, they want to win, they got dreams, they want to do something.
Right. They're embodying the right side of reality. Individual identity, meritocracy, striving, logic, reason, rationality, competition, virtue, ethics, the list goes on.
Do you think a message like...
The left is actually so morally bankrupt, they have nothing. Again, shout out the video I just released. You guys got to go watch that after this.
That from him lands on the business owner, on the undecided voter, on the person that says, you know what, I think he's right, I'm going to go vote for him.
I think you don't have that many undecided voters. I think by now you have very strong Trump voters. I don't think you have strong Democrat voters, but I don't think you have strong Kamala voters. What's to vote for? I mean, take a look.
I've talked to a lot of people on the street. They say they're not voting for Kamala. They just refuse. And a lot of them are men. Basically, all of them are men.
She can't do an interview. She hasn't. Has she been in here to do an interview?
No, not yet.
I don't think you'll see her.
She's claiming she's going to go on Rogan.
Well, that'll be interesting. So am I.
When you look at this whole Barack Obama thing, I think the one thing they don't show, you were talking yesterday, I think it was the Bloomberg event, which, by the way, I loved. I love the way you handled the whole terrorist conversation. That was a great event.
Sort of,
Again, owning the people who hate reality. It's the common theme. This is the reason why they continue to hate him. This is the reason why they're obsessed with him, because he keeps owning them. He keeps destroying them over and over and over again, therefore reminding them that objective reality judges them as he's a masculine, competent billionaire, also president. So it's beyond enraging to these people that they're getting owned by the embodiment of their wrongness.